Welcome back. You're watching the Weekly Brief right here on News9. Another story that has been in the headlines and refuses to go is India's crisis in the air. No, I'm not talking about the very unfortunate Ahmedabad air crash that happened earlier this year, but there's another kind of a crisis, and that crisis has to do with the fact that your flights don't take off on time. You don't reach your destination in time. Your flights get cancelled with very little communication coming your way, which incidentally has improved now, I believe. But I think more importantly, we are right now in that time of the year where external circumstances like fog also continue to delay your flights or cancel your flights, and the Cat 3, Cat 4 protocol sets in, and guess what? We still don't have enough pilots who are Cat 3 enabled to do instrument landing on the runway. At some point, does this all once again boil down to the fact that we don't have enough players in India's aviation market? We are pretty much living in a duopoly where you have the market leader IndiGo with about 64-65% market share, and you have an Air India combined which is at just about 20% thereof. So is it still the problem of not enough players, not enough competition, which is pretty much playing with the schedules of flyers, Sri?
So Kartik, I just want to make a very quick point on the overall duopoly, issue.
Sure.
The duopoly I would not want is the one that's driven either by a policy framework or by policy manipulation by, let's say, some corporates. Duopolies that are created by market forces emerge on their own, because there are other people who are competing, but they get squeezed out of the market for whatever reason. That said, I think there has been a trend since till almost from 2014. Over the last 10 years, for these duopolies to be created in different markets.
That's right.
If you take the tech sector, for example, if you take food delivery, there's only Zomato and If you take quick commerce,
you have Flipkart,
telecom,
and Amazon,
Jio, Airtel. If you take
True,
airlines,
true,
there's just
true,
IndiGo.
true.
So there are many duopolies which are in play. But what we also need to be mindful is that in some of these duopolies actually are not making money. Okay, for example, you take food delivery, Zomato's just broken, like it just started making money.
But Blinkit incidentally is making more money than Zomato. So, the quick commerce is incidentally making more money than the food delivery.
It's still making losses.
Oh, I thought Blinkit was, maybe it's doing more order volumes or better top line, but okay.
So both Blinkit and Zepto are still making losses.
Okay.
Last numbers I saw, maybe if the latest quarters, suggest otherwise, I stand corrected, but that's the situation. So we have to be careful about. The same applies to airlines. Now, in our bid to create, let's say, open up the aviation industry to unlimited number of players, you don't want to create an industry where the whole industry becomes unviable and becomes sick. Does it absolve IndiGo of the blame? Absolutely not. I think there is a certain arrogance which has built up in IndiGo as the dominant player, and I think they're squarely to blame for the mess that happened. I think there's obviously an opportunity for the regulator to look at this sector very closely and allow foreign airlines to also come in. I mean, why should we only allow Indian players to be there? Why not allow some good quality foreign airlines to come? We shouldn't have to necessarily wait for reciprocal arrangements from them saying that, okay, you come in and operate in my market. So I think we have to make some concessions, allow newer airlines to come in, and it serves the interest of people.
Right. But Rakesh, we had relaxed our FDI and aviation policy maybe 10 years back, and that is when we, the government used to at that point claim that we don't have, in fact, the opposition used to claim that we don't have foreign airlines coming in because you have an Air India which is subsidized by the government of India, and hence it's not a level playing sky, so to speak. Now that Air India is also with the Tata Group, the government has absolutely no stake in the aviation sector in the country. Is it just business unit economics which is preventing foreign airlines from coming? Or is there still bureaucracy, and is there still this sort of, the favors economy that we talk about, which is restricting the capital to flow into, rather fly into India in this case?
2-3 points, Kartik. First and foremost, aviation has been a graveyard of reputations, including companies. Decadal view would imagine that every 5 years we've lost a couple of airlines, and right now we are saddled with 2 major airlines, and that has the impact on consumers. It has the impact on the business landscape. We've seen the IndiGo case. There's something called HHI index, which is named after 2 global economists. They've done a recent study on Indian, duopoly, monopoly market. It throws some amazing numbers, which are quite horrifying. There are 8 sectors. Out of the 2 are strategic, which is telecom and aviation. And for the aviation sector, the globally accepted norm is 1,500 number. For aviation sector in India, it was 4,500 the day IndiGo crisis happened.
Oh, I see.
That's a fairly, and the average number for these 8 sectors, which includes steel, iron, auto components, pharma, and then also energy. No, and then also paints to some extent. More so the two-wheelers in the automobiles. It is 2,500. Which is more than 1,500. So there are challenges. There's a wake-up call for the regulators and the government to come into play. Aviation, we have drawn a lesson quickly. And secondly, for addressing monopoly or duopoly concerns in these areas.
Right.
I don't know whether we have discussed, and it's a sad thing that we have an aviation economic regulator. It's called AERA,
That's right.
Aviation Economic Regulatory Authority, and we keep talking about DGCA. Manmohan Singh, in his second term, right at the start of the innings, said that we need economic regulator for each economic activity. But ARA, nobody has heard of that name. What role did it play during this crisis? What is it supposed to do? Nobody knows. And so we started with these economic regulators, beginning with TRI. The first gentleman was Justice S.S. Sodhi. After that, it's a set of former bureaucrats who live on patronage. But if we bring in, I'm all for light touch regulation. Manning those 7 or 8 sectors that I mentioned, but you can't have DGCA or AERA telling you, doing ticket pricing. We moved away from that.
And also you don't need license, Raj, and you don't need bureaucracy, and you don't need red tape.
So which is why I differentiate between a duopoly created by policy, where there's scope for policy to come in and demolish the duopoly, and where competitive forces are shaping.
One last point on the policy front, Kartik. We need to reimagine the bankruptcy law, because most of the cases that in the aviation
of course, they are in NCLT,
so there was a time frame that bankruptcy code was a revolutionary step, but the time code has got deferred and deferred and deferred so that it has become unviable.
Absolutely, but because at the end of the day, you still need somebody to come and bail out that company or buy it for whatever scrap value. My final question, short question, requesting for a short answer, Sri, is the fact that there is still not enough investment being made, despite being so profitable by IndiGo, to have enough Cat 3 enabled pilots. Coming back to where we started from, there wasn't enough investment made in having the right crew size and the right strength of resources when we saw the first 10 days of December, the kind of chaos that everybody flying in India had to deal with. So at the end of the day, this duopoly and this duopolistic scenario is also making the incumbents fairly complacent that they can get away with crime, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw what happened, right? That's largely a product of complacency. The government was telling it to hire more, crew per aircraft, and IndiGo just sat on it.
And you're profitable, you're making money, you're the market leader. If you're not making those investments, then you are pretty much taking your position for granted.
For a 2,000 crore investment,
it's complacency.
No, it's stupid also. 2,000 crore investment for additional pilot cost versus 80,000 crore top line. So it's a bad business decision.
Absolutely. Well, let's leave it at that for this segment. But coming up, we will talk about a startup which has pretty much made not just its founder a billionaire, but also doubled the investors' wealth ever since it launched less than 10 days ago. We are talking about Meesho, but more on that on the other side of the break.